What's up, guys? I'm Monique Rogers. For those of you who don't know, I am the author of Now That I Have Your Attention, a book surrounding the topic of mental health, where I discuss my own personal journey with mental health and my own toxic defense mechanisms and the correlations that I made. So if you haven't watched the first video yet, please go back and watch the first video so you can understand and pretty much know where I'm going with all these correlations. So today I want to talk about society. One of the first chapter actually in my book is called Validation, where I talk about my high school experience and how badly I wanted to be validated by my peers. I was always ashamed of my love for old music and telling people that. I always talked about God and I always talked about philosophy, and somehow it will always come up in a conversation and people would just not gravitate towards me the way I wanted them to. It wasn't really the thing. Everybody was worried about looking cute, having nice hair, having a nice body, whatever. Luckily though, I had all three, and I was actually into hair and makeup, and I love fashion and stuff like that. And I kind of used that to try to get validated, but thankfully I met like-minded people who are also into God like I am, and religion, but also keep it cute and is into fashion and stuff like that. But when I was reflecting on it, I realized how mentally abusive that is. And not to play the blame game or anything, but society has the biggest effect on that. It is the biggest mental abuser because it has a high standard on happiness and beauty, and then it shows you what happiness and beauty looks like, which isn't fair because happiness and beauty isn't the same for anybody else, and the people who they make us idolize are not even like that naturally. So I feel like, well, I know for a very long time society has been teaching us self-hate, and it affects every single last one of us. So the first time society is not only mentally abusive in that way, but another big way is money. Like, the fact that food and water cost anything is absolutely ridiculous when it was put here on this earth for us naturally by God, and you have to work for somebody else and do all these kind of things for money to survive, which is very mentally abusive. A lot of people turn to negative things because opportunities aren't given to them. Now again, it affects everybody and we're all victims of it. And like I said, if you watch my first video, I kind of break down how both races are mentally abused by the things that they have been taught and told. And you know, this is my truth, is my offer for unity. Now with that being said and made clear, as a black woman, I know that opportunities are limited to black people. And before anybody starts saying, oh well, just go to school and do this and do that, there was a such thing called Black Wall Street, where we followed those rules and those standards of society to start our own businesses and build and help our own, and it got burned down, which sends a message that even when we do follow the rules and achieve, it's not appreciated. Someone, you know, is expressing a lot of self-hate and hate for humanity, and it's very oppressive. But with those things like that being limited, and you know, a lot of people in my community getting pregnant young and whatever the circumstances may be, they have to opt for different things and different ways to get money. And I only bring that up to bring up selling drugs. No, I do not condone it. It's very harmful. It's caused me a lot of pain in my personal life. Not by me doing drugs, but other people doing drugs around me, and then causing me a lot of pain. Make sure you get, now that I have your attention, you can read all about it. But you know, they opt out to do such terrible things like that just for money, and then they become completely ruthless, killing each other just for money, just so they can eat. And in that way, society is very mentally abusive. You know, I worked with kids for 4 years as a special ed TA, and until then I would just think kids are just straight up bad. I talk about how certain kids I know who come from backgrounds that they have no control over, seeing so many people die, seeing so many people on drugs because they're stressing about life and not meeting those standards that society gave them, and wanting to be validated, and just all different kinds of things, and have been raped. And you know, this little 12-year-old girl was the woman of her house. She acted out at school because that's the only place she got to be a kid. When she went home, she was the woman of the house. She had to cook, she had to clean for her siblings, she had to make sure her dad, who was always 2 shades to the wind, was okay and safe and there, you know, for her. And it took one little thing to set her off. So things like that are very mentally abusive. And then you have the other side of things for white people, you know, being told these lies about black people, that we're just naturally menaces to society, and you know, not taking our opportunities, just being lied to really help certain people, because you know, one white person don't represent all and one black person don't represent all. But you know, the majority of white people who have power really turn their backs because they can't identify with certain situations like that, and opportunities being denied for them, and them not knowing where the next meal for their family is coming from. So it's very hard to sympathize. So things like cancer won't be treated when there's been cures for cancer because it costs more money. They will get more money just by doing cancer treatments. So things like that. You know, I won't even go as far as to say that people like that are racist. I just feel like money is the motive, and when money is the motive, and having that control, and having that power, and being that narcissistic, they don't care. They don't have a care for humanity, especially when they never experience it, can't sympathize with it, don't have any empathy for it, and can't identify with it. It's like, who cares? You know, all they know is that they have opportunities and they did this and they made it. So like I said, as a country, we need to have more truthful conversations. The world is very truth deprived, and it causes us to not have sympathy or empathy for one another. And a society with all these standards on money, happiness, and beauty is just completely mentally abusive. People become so insecure because they can't meet those beauty standards of the fake this and fake that, and the European version of beauty is like the only version of beauty that people will accept, when all versions of beauty are acceptable and are beautiful. So if you like this video, please like, please subscribe to my channel, please share it, and hashtag high tea. Next week I'm going to talk about a little bit more about society and how capitalism on certain things and certain cultural things are mentally abusive, and you know, the meaning behind hair braiding and stuff like that, and why as a black community we go so hard for our culture. But mainly because our history was taken away from us and we kind of had to create our own culture, and a lot of people in our black community don't realize how innate our culture is and how Africans was actually practicing some of the same things we do now. Like I said, I'll get more into that in the next video, and about how music and language correlates with mental health. So thank you. With society having a standard on happiness and beauty, it makes us all victims, because a lot of people stress and become insecure when they can't meet up to these beauty standards, and it's we're all victims. It's a repeat offender. I can remember the earliest time reading about Sarah Baartman, a woman from South Africa during the late 1700s, early 1800s, who was brought to England as like a show pony or something, and being made fun of her physical features, her ebony features, and then later it became a beauty trend. You know, English women would get corsets and put them under their skirts, giving off the illusion that they have hips and butt, and that became a beauty standard. Now that sends a message to ebony women that we aren't good enough. Our features on us aren't good enough, and until an ivory woman does it, then it's beautiful. And that's been the norm from that point on, or probably even beyond that point. And then to ivory woman, it sends a message that your natural body isn't good enough. And that's kind of how, well, it is how society is today. We see all these celebrities with these made up bodies in their captions and everything in their song, kind of second that emotion regardless of how they feel or not. Music was one of the first forms of communication, and we still communicate and learn from music and the things we see and the things that we listen to, especially if more than 1 million people is on that trend. So people start to think, if I don't look like this, if I don't wear this, then I won't be happy. And people will literally waste their entire lives and forget about self-love, and forgetting that happiness is within, and forgetting that these people don't look like that naturally, and really start to become depressed and insecure because they can't achieve or meet these standards. And it sends a message to people that you aren't good enough, and we're all victims of it. So as a society, we need to start normalizing natural beauty. Now, to each his own. You know, I obviously have my hair flat ironed. I do wear, my hair is natural. I wear it in a natural state, and I like wigs. Wigs and hairstyles for me is like clothes and makeup, you know, whatever the mood is. But I love and I appreciate my natural beauty. I'm not scared to go somewhere and be out in public or take a picture in my natural state. And for a lot of people, they aren't secure within their own personal beauty, and it's because the society we live in does not normalize it. There's so many things in society that will tell you that if you don't look a certain way, then you won't be happy, then you won't get the guy, you won't get the girl, or whatever, and you will end up alone. Because most people who really believe that aren't happy and not secure within themselves.